Charles, first in line. Way to go, man.
Eagerly waiting.
Yeah. Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We'll get rolling here in a minute. So, Pink Man, look totally comfortable today, dude. Sitting in the dad chair. Yeah.
That's right, man. Chilling in the dad recliner here while working from the house. Got to do a lot of cleanup out in the office, so it's comfy. At least it's weird, but it's
I'm
comfy.
jealous. I mean, 100%. It kind of makes me rethink my entire office setup. I would prefer to work out of a dad recliner all day.
It's pretty sweet, man. Pretty sweet. You got to make all the dad noises though when you get up and down out of it. Though you got to,
Are you gonna get up today so we can hear that and sit back down?
No. I think I'll say.
All right.
Yeah. Have to imagine it.
Those noises are real,
They are
across the 40 threshold, and I catch myself when I'm getting up or sitting down making like the. Like, why am I doing that? Is it just you get old and your body's like, all right, it's time to do it? Our brains are just pre-programmed. So you at a certain age, just make the dad noises.
Yeah, it's not like it hurts or anything. So I'm with you. It's just like your brain just like, no, gotta do this thing I gotta do now.
Well, Eric, theories on that?
Theories on what?
Why dad noises occur as we get older? Yeah,
because it hurts to live when you get older.
Maybe that's what it is. Maybe it's just the pain is so constant we don't notice that it's actually pain.
Yeah.
Living is pain. No, I'm just sorry. No, I don't know. I definitely make the get up and get down grunts and stuff, and I think I don't know. We just begin to break down and we suck and we have to hold our breath to do everything we do.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta keep it all together.
I guess that's a good point too. Yeah, so hold it all in.
Yeah. All right. Well, welcome everybody to another episode of the Hackle Box. We appreciate you joining us. We were absent last month. I think the last time we spoke with everybody was in July. Wow, it's crazy. It's September. Yeah, it was in July, and we had promised to try to do an episode while we were at Defcon, and we failed to deliver. But we did promise to try. I don't think we promised to do it. So we tried. Didn't work out. Sorry, everybody, but we're back again. So yeah, we just got back. It's been a month ago now from Defcon, and had a really great time out there. Maybe guys, let's recap a little bit of Defcon for the listeners, and maybe they have questions for us too as we roll along.
Yeah, I mean, they are talking to at least 3 of the 4 members of the Water Pool Basketball Association Championship. So
that's very true.
If there are any questions about the play or how that went, definitely we'll take those.
Yeah, we are. The 3 of us are definitely the reigning champions of Pool Basketball Association. Yeah,
that's what it was. Yeah.
We were undefeated. Yeah, as a team for everybody. I know everybody's very interested in that, but we were undefeated. I'm only disappointed there wasn't a trophy, but let's put on the list for next year.
Yeah.
I mean, I just collected the tears of everyone else and just put them in a vial, and that was my trophy.
Oh man. So yeah, we did some CTFing this year. As always, had a lot of good team building. It was fantastic to have everybody together. It was really the first time in a while. I feel like, I guess it's been 3 years, but that Defcon was fully in person again, and that was nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the first time actually getting to go. So
first time in a few years it's been everyone together again, and then our team had grown so much since a few years ago. So it was a lot of good times.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. So Eric, you got to go out early too and do some black hat training as well, right?
I did some training for some IoT and industrial control systems, pen testing and things like that, and assessments and stuff. It was really really good training. It was with Justin Searle, I think that's his name, and in Guardians and stuff, and that was just fantastic training. Did that. We had a few other people go out and do some training, some both cloud attack and defense, different courses, different people, but doing those types of things, some shellcode stuff, some Mac OS methodologies and stuff like that for red teaming. And yeah, we had some good training for some good people. It was a lot of
Yeah.
fun. Well,
Very cool.
it was a lot of fun. It was also 10 days in Vegas when you take the
Yeah.
training and Defcon into consideration. So it was a lot of fun. It was also kind of exhausting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. 5 days is plenty for me. 10 days is too much. I'm questioning sanity at the end of that trip for sure.
Yeah.
So Pink, your first time at DEF CON in person. What were
Yeah.
your thoughts, man?
Well, it's funny. So like all of my sort of thoughts of DEF CON are from like early DEF CON days when I first started hearing about it, right? So it's just, I think the funniest thing that just struck me was that it was very like clean and organized, I guess is the way to put it. You know what I mean? Like I just expected more techno and darkness, because just felt like that. You know, it's just kind of a weird thing, but it was good, man. Like it's you know, big, pretty good sized crowd. It was a lot of good stuff going on. I mean, we didn't really get to a whole lot of the talks or anything like that, but I thought it was good, man. It was I know that this was the first year in that new venue too, so probably a little bit different. But
We
thought it was-
still found a lot of techno darkness.
we did, yeah. Particularly with our CTF, it was very for, you know, hours at a time. But
Well, the packet capture village or whatever is kind of known for that. In the past, they've been even more of that than you saw this year.
oh,
Yeah.
I know they had a lot of DJ in there and stuff too. It's pretty cool. But,
Yeah,
yeah, man, it was good.
Pinky's audio is kind of going downhill
Oh.
right now.
Yeah, I think your
it's
microphone's
echoing some
dying,
of
Pink.
us back, and it's kind of dying a little bit.
Gotcha. Well, I will keep mute until I'm talking. So.
Okay.
It's given the dad grunt. Someone said in the question. Yeah, Pinky, your microphone's doing a dad grunt for sure. It's actually super staticky, kind of. Yeah.
Weird. We get a little closer or something too. So yeah, sorry about that, everybody. Kind of working off of a
You might want
setup
to just
here. It's not normal.
try unplugging it and plugging it back in or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, reboot it 3
Or
times.
is it the laptop?
Yeah, it's the built-in one.
Oh, you might want to throw it away and pull it back out of the trash and see what happens. Give it a little threat to its life, you know. Call help desk. There's a techno and darkness, Pink. Yeah, there's the techno and darkness that you mentioned, Pink, in your microphone.
Yeah, you found it. Dad noises, techno, darkness, everything. If you need to drop and hop back on, we can try that too. Because we need you for the rest of these conversations, man. So, all right, kind of roll into a little bit of news. You know, summer's winding down, and there's one thing, you know, I love about summer, and it's ice cream, soft serve ice cream specifically. You like a good soft serve cone, Eric?
Yeah. I prefer like a you know like a Blizzard or a cement mixer or a McFlurry or something, you know. Like I like that. I like to put the ingredients in and then nice thick ice cream cup shake thing.
Yeah. The McFlurry is fantastic. The Blizzard I like better, but I do like the McFlurry too. What about you, Pink? Are you a fan of soft serve ice cream?
I am, man. I just particularly with McDonald's though, that hot fudge sundae. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
that thing is mad. I don't know what kind of stuff they put in that chocolate, but it is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Now, see, I don't know if other people will do it because I've never bothered asking. But at Dairy Queen with the Blizzard and stuff, I will just go in there and be like, "Here's what I want. I want you to take this kind of ice cream, these ingredients." I don't like order off the menu. I just be like, "This is what I want you to make me." And because of that, and the fact that they literally never bat an eye at it, they're also always like, "All right, coming right up." That's just like always been my favorite, because I'll just come in there and just be like, "I'm feeling this today." You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do that sometimes. You know, if I'm feeling saucy, just put what I want in there. But sometimes they have some good pre-made concoctions, and it sounds real nice. So I'll go that route too. But I'm going to miss ice cream. I don't really indulge in ice cream as we go into the winter too much anymore. But that's a story that I thought was interesting that I want to talk about today. I don't know if anybody's seen this, but recently there was some headlines that came out that a company known as Kitsch is actually suing McDonald's for $900 million. And the story all circulates around the broken ice cream machine. I think we're all aware of like, I mean, honestly, for me, I don't know how long it's been since I've actually had an ice cream from McDonald's, because every damn time I go to get one, the ice cream machine's broken. It's like the Mexican pizza at Taco Bell right now, right? It's back, but I've never seen one. So
Yeah, I've called multiple Taco Bells at this point, not found one. So
yeah,
Just a scam, man. It's just a scam.
I think so. I think it's just a trick to get us back in there. But so, long story short here, maybe long story long, there were two researchers that started kind of investigating the broken ice cream machines in McDonald's. They were able to discover like a secret passcode in these Taylor ice cream machines. And so this is related to hacking. It's just a different type of hacking. And I think we'll get to the point eventually, or maybe there is no point. I don't know. But they were able to find the secret passcode. And if you put the secret passcode into the ice cream machine, what opens like a whole new menu. The menu can like let you access settings, so you can see like your viscosity for your milk and your sugar, the temperature of the glycol. It actually gives you meanings of error messages. And so without that code, from what I've learned, is McDonald's workers, they'll be presented with an error message, but they have no idea what that error message means and what they should actually do to try to fix the ice cream machine. And so these folks set out, they wanted to reverse engineer that. And they did, and they were able to identify the secret passcode that also isn't in any manuals that are given to owners of the ice cream machines. It's not put out by McDonald's to their franchise owners. So nobody knows how to get to the secret menu except for Taylor, which is the manufacturer of the machine. So they essentially say, hey, we're going to give you a car and you're not going to be allowed to open that hood, right? So we're kind of getting into the right to repair narrative here. But so, yeah, if you're a franchise owner too, you have no choice but to use the equipment Microsoft or McDonald's, Microsoft, wow, Freudian slip, McDonald's says you can use. And so essentially everybody's forced into using the same ice cream machine. Now, I will say I've studied this too much. The ice cream machine is real badass. It can do a lot of cool stuff. They call it the Ferrari of ice cream machines. You know, it can do the soft serve. It can go straight to milkshakes. It can go straight to, you know, your McFlurries, whatever you want. But because of that, there's a lot of moving parts and kind of antiquated technologies in there. They're prone to breaking often. And so that's why, you know, your McDonald's has these broken ice cream machines. So yeah, essentially these people, they made a device to make it easier for franchise owners to manage and maintain their ice cream machines. So they built this device, you install it on your ice cream machine, you can hook to the interface via Wi-Fi and see if there's an error, something is out of line. But then even more importantly, they give you the trouble codes and actually tell you what to do to fix the problem or prevent the problem before it happens. That's pretty awesome, right? We all get more ice cream.
I mean, in theory, sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll keep going then. Interject
Sorry,
whenever you
real
guys
fast.
want.
We got a
Yeah.
thing coming in saying you're aware chat feature is disabled today, so I was looking into that. I
Okay.
think I might have just enabled it. If someone wants to try chatting, there it is.
There
All
we
right,
go.
we
There
got
we
it.
go.
Thank
All
you
right.
for that. I just wondered why everybody was putting their chats in question and answer. I thought people were
Yeah.
being weird today. I didn't realize it was disabled at all.
So anyway, I'll keep on with my story here.
Hey, I'll just
So
say that you've looked into this way too much. I
I
mean, this
did.
isn't even
I
the
did.
Hackle Box anymore. This is like the candy box with Oscar Minks. You know?
Right to repair is a very important issue, and it relates to all of us. I think we can agree on that.
Yeah.
So Kitsch is the name of the company. They started rolling out these cool devices to help people keep their ice cream machines running. Right. Then Taylor's ice cream machine manufacturer, they start like trying to get a hold of these Kitsch devices, and they're trying to like put in orders from Taylor, and they're like, nope, we're not sending you one. Then they get their lawyers to try to order them. Eventually, the rumor is they hired like a PI to get into a McDonald's and steal one of their devices. So this all goes on, and then suddenly, you know, Kitsch is rolling. They're getting a lot of business. It's spreading like wildfire. McDonald's owners are happy. I'm happy. I've got ice cream. But then suddenly McDonald's comes in and puts out a statement, and they say, hey, you can't use the Kitsch device. It breaches the Taylor machine's confidential information, voids the warranty, and can cause serious human injury when there's no record to back up there was an exploding device in your ice cream machine that killed someone, and essentially just shut down Kitch as it is. Also, very interestingly, about the same time this happened, Taylor, who's the ice cream manufacturer, the ice cream machine manufacturer, came out with a very similar device that's now going to be standard for the franchise owners to have to purchase, along with their maintenance agreement for the Taylor device, which is thousands of dollars a month, plus the new device too. And so Kitch responded and said, "Hey, we're going to sue McDonald's for $900 million because you essentially steamrolled our business and put us out." And yeah, that's the story of the McDonald's ice cream machine. It all leads to the right to repair issues. I personally, I think, hopefully a lot of us will agree, but if I own a device, I have the right to repair and maintain that device myself. Yeah, that's that. What do you guys think?
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to hopefully someone next year finds a way to play Doom on a Taylor ice cream maker at Defcon. You know what I mean?
Oh, I would love that.
That would be very cool. Yeah.
So maybe a little bit of R&D budget, right? We get a Taylor ice cream machine. I support this.
Yeah,
I support this.
Yeah, I was just saying on the right to repair stuff though too. I mean, just like, I'm in a farming area, right? And so John Deere tried this and tried to make it so that like only John Deere techs could work on things and all this stuff, and it became a huge thing. And there were all these guys that were going around, essentially hacking tractors, right, to be able to repair them and that kind of thing. And yeah, I'm with you, man. I feel like if you bought the device, I don't care. I mean, I'm not renting it from you. If I'm renting it from you, that's another story. But if I paid an unreasonable amount of money for these very high-end products, and then I've got to pay you again to fix it, or even tell me, like, just let it break down or whatever before it's just crazy, man. It's just it's insane. And no ice cream, so that's very important.
Right.
I think it's really cool too to take a look at the perspective of like, we get a lot of people who are like, oh, hackers are bad. People trying to hack hardware, trying to reverse engineer things, or doing it for, to try to steal from someone or do whatever. But in this case, someone took a look at this and was like, why are these always broken? What can we do about it? And literally they were helping the situation, right? Like you had to do some reverse engineering, I'm sure, to figure out that way to get into that data and be able to access that stuff and figure out how to manage some of this stuff. And a lot of good things come out of from researchers doing reverse engineering and do different things. And then from the other side, you've got it sounds like Taylor reverse engineering the other stuff, and then coming back and making their own, and that could be kind of the negative side, right? But there's
for sure
back and forth to it. Also, I'm all about an ice cream village, Josh. I'm just saying that's a great idea. Ice cream machine village.
We could start that. We'll have our own village next year. I bet we would be the most popular village there if we could keep those Taylor ice cream machines working. Right, that's the test.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, 100%.
Cliff in chat said Doom can now be played on a tractor, and that's what I was referring to when I said I can't wait for Doom to be played on a Taylor ice cream.
Yeah.
Is that's what they did at DEF CON this year? Someone had jailbroke the John Deere stuff and played Doom on it. So
yeah, I would urge everybody to like, the best thing if you agree in the right to repair and want to support that movement is like try to get involved in your local government. I know there are options to submit your thoughts to your government. I think right now we have like 15, 16 states with active right to repair bills, another 20 or so that are being introduced, and it's still a bunch of states where it hasn't even hit the floor yet or hasn't been introduced. So you can go to repair.org and see a map of all this. You can click your state, you can go to your state and submit information to your state to try to support that movement. So if you're like us and you want good cold ice cream or to be able to fix your tractor, maybe do that. And the MacBooks too, I think, but I don't play in that space too much. Someone did ask, how can you know that McDonald's ice cream is awesome when the machine's always broken? I just remember from when I was a kid.
Yeah, we're old.
Yeah. Yeah, they used to work. And there is a cool site I have to share. It's called McBroken.com. So if you want to check and see if your ice cream machines are broken before you drive to McDonald's, go to McBroken.com.
Spoiler alert, they are. They are broken.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's just it's a listing of every McDonald's.
Nice. Brian's already on top of that. All right, cool. You guys want to do some security news now?
Well, I guess.
I mean, we could just keep talking about ice cream. That's fine. Whatever you want to do.
Yeah, chat's working now. We can just talk about, Apple's. Look, the fact is, Apple's never going to give you the ability to repair. The entire purpose of Apple's existence is for you not to repair your device. That was their big idea back when they first founded Apple. Like, hey, let's make it so people can't work on them and then sell them. So, good luck.
Yeah, the model works for them. It's not going to break for them, and so I don't see any change there.
I feel like that 12.44% of all machines are currently broken that Josh just posted. That's a low ball number. That's underreported. No way.
Yeah, I just can't believe it. I know
Right.
that it seems so low. If that is, hey, maybe all this news about the broken ice cream machines got McDonald's in gear, and they're like, Taylor, get out and fix these.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe finally. Let's see. Oh, I'll help you know that apparently every single one of them in the city that I'm in now is working. So we're good to go.
Wow. All right. So I need you to recon this weekend, and let's go fact check that.
There's one that's listed as inconclusive. I could always go look at that.
I can check every McDonald's in the city I live in. There's one and it's broke. So
All right. I
All
guess
right,
we can talk
cool.
about security stuff.
Yeah, Twilio. So you guys probably heard about this. There was a Twilio breach occurred about a month ago. Twilio is an application that services voice. It can do VoIP, SIP, text, chat, video, emails, essentially layered onto any other application. Right, so they work with a lot of third parties, like they do help Signal with device verification. They help Okta, which was involved in pushing their SMS for MFA. Authy, the same thing. So they had a breach August 6th, and I think they reported this time around 163 of their customers were impacted. Using that, they were able to then essentially pivot into other businesses that were customers of Twilio to be able to wreak some havoc here. Yeah. I see this again as another supply chain attack too, right? So we're seeing Twilio is that provider, and then we're seeing, Authy, Okta, Signal being impacted. There's a lot of other clients too in there, like MailChimp, Cloudflare, Klaviyo. And so the way I understand the attack here was they would still be targeting entities, right? It's like kind of post-secondary to this. If an entity was targeted, then go to the Twilio database they have access to and see if that entity has members in the Twilio database using one of their MFA tools such as Okta. And then if so, using harvested creds or compromised creds, input those creds, and they're able to intercept that SMS message that would be going to the endpoint user to authenticate as them. I think the ultimate goal in a lot of these cases too was like with Signal, for example, and I'm pretty sure Okta was the same, was to add new authenticated devices, right? So you get that authentication, you approve your device, boom, you're in. So an MFA bypass.
Yeah, in the situations where they were able to, at least. I mean, and then on top of it, even just being able to capture it potentially. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't remember the number. I know like Signal, for example, there was a pretty decent number of devices that were impacted by this. Signal did put out a statement saying they've identified all those devices or all those users, and they've notified the users as well. Just keep an eye on that still. I know probably a lot of us use Signal, and
yeah.
I
do know that I think the number of impacted or potentially impacted accounts close to 2,000 or something like that. But I think as far as the actual like account takeovers for Signal, they just were like 3 or something like that was the number I recall. I did actually remember, I don't remember who it was now, but when this was first kind of coming out, I remember seeing someone that I follow or that someone that I follow follows on Twitter or something like that was talking about that their account was one of them. So
yeah, I've seen a couple of different reports on the number of employees or credentials that were harvested. I see the 10,000 employees number thrown around a lot. So, but I've seen it referred to as Twilio accounts, but I've also heard it was actually Okta accounts was 10K. So I'm not sure. I don't think we've got clarity on that yet. But either way, we know like, right, Twilio users were compromised, and that was through a social engineering campaign. Through those users, they were able to pivot to other businesses that were customers of Twilio as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was one of the things Sorry, go ahead, Eric.
Oh, go ahead, man.
Okay, yeah, as you said, that was one of the things I was thinking about. I was just reading through this. Is like we definitely don't have the full story on this yet, so there may be a lot more fallout as it kind of gets out there and that kind of thing. But I mean, even things like Authy and Signal and Okta are huge. I mean, like it's a massive like trust erosion there, even if it's not really their fault, right? I mean, but it's going to be everybody's going to be a little bit more apprehensive about those services for a little while.
Yeah, and I think it's a trend that we're going to continue to see, and I think we've talked about this, right? So we still say MFA everything, right? Do that. But like we always say too, it's not a silver bullet. And this is another example of why that's not a silver bullet. And as our security postures continue to improve, well, attacks are going to evolve to find ways around our new security technologies that we are implementing. And we're seeing that more and more.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, I'm curious, I guess, how accurate they're determining what, like, when accounts were actually compromised or taken over, things like that. Like Signal specifically saying like almost 2000 or something like that accounts being potentially affected. It's been like potentially exposed, but then saying that 3 were involved, up to 3 were involved in a takeover. It's like, well, exactly. I'm just curious exactly. I mean, they may very well have a good way of determining that, but I'm curious how they're doing that. I mean, at
I
least
agree.
in Signal's case too, people don't have access to previous message history and stuff like that with Signal. But yeah.
Yeah, it seems like there'd have to be some joint effort on these investigations. And we have to assume Twilio is going to be fully transparent to all of its affected customers. And then their affected customers, uh, take this serious enough to do full investigations to understand who was and wasn't impacted, and B, they've got the data to be able to coordinate or relate that to the Twilio data too. So there's a lot of hoops to jump through, and what scares me is exactly that. Like, okay, this is what's being reported, but this is only what's being identified and observed today. There's a
Because
high
those ones probably
chance.
took it the most seriously. I mean, we would
Yep.
expect Signal, Authy, things like that to take this seriously, to
Hmm.
be able to figure that information out. But it is curious, to see how many
Yep.
other ones we're not hearing about are out there.
Yeah, and I wonder too from our listeners, I would assume some folks are using Cloudflare. Did you see any notifications from Cloudflare that this happened? Because I do know, like Signal put out statements at least quickly. Um, I would imagine if you were a Flare customer, you should have a statement, and you should have any records or indication if you were or weren't involved.
No, I saw in at least the article, the Wired article that we were looking at, it mentions that in the same attack that attacked Twilio, Cloudflare was attacked but was not compromised, but not saying that Cloudflare was compromised as a chain from the Twilio one. Are you sure of
Yeah,
that being the case?
no, I'm not. I
Okay.
I thought that Cloudflare was a Twilio customer. I could be wrong.
Maybe, yeah. I will say that they were talking about that this specific attack was a smishing attack, right?
Mhm.
I mean, they call it phishing a lot, but it's SMS phishing, and that originally got the compromise, and it was compromised multiple other companies too. It was part of a large campaign against a bunch of different organizations, including Twilio, and Cloudflare was one of them. Cloudflare did note that they were not compromised, they believe, due to restrictions in
Okay.
privilege, and then on top of it, that they use hardware key multi-factor
Yeah. Okay.
instead. So
Yeah, I did see the smish was essentially appeared to come from Twilio's IT department asking for creds and codes, right? MFA codes. The attack, I think, is being referred to as Octopus, OKTA puss, which I thought was clever and fun. Yeah.
The
Yeah, I
names
think
are
that,
always the best part. Just what kind of weird name they're going to come up with for this one. I like it.
yeah, for sure. So I think the takeaway here, like for me, see what you guys think too, but MFA is not a silver bullet. Yes, do it, but it's not a silver bullet. There's still going to be opportunity to compromise. But B is like if you have a good inventory on your network and your infrastructure, your enterprise, you have to monitor all of the devices that are added to the accounts that you control, and make sure that you're looking at anything new that's added. You're treating that as a change control. You're vetting that device to confirm it should have access to your systems. And I think that's the way that you would be able to identify if there were compromise in this case.
Yeah, I think a takeaway too is that we're going to see probably more smishing. I mean, we've already been seeing an uptick in it.
Yeah.
I mean, the reality is that a lot of solutions, a lot of people, a lot of companies have gotten a lot better about detecting phishing, training for phishing, getting people to not do things in phishing. I mean, it's still a successful avenue. We see that all the time too. But I think as things get better in one area where people become more resilient, more resistant in one area, you're going to see an uptick in other areas with similar attacks, but with less protections. And how much protections are in place about getting an SMS message, not nearly as much about getting an email. So
For sure.
Right. And even though I'm not entirely sure it was involved in this, but just kind of based on what Twilio was doing, makes me think that it probably was aware. But you think about just like SMS based MFA, right? It always has made me a little nervous from like SIM attacks and things like that in the past. But just kind of another little ding on that as well. Kind of hate those.
mhm.
Yeah, I think another trend that we're predicting is the use of passwordless technology. As we see that move forward, then the attack model is going to shift more to personal devices, because that personal device is going to be the key to the kingdom. And so this is getting into, I think it's going to cause a lot of issues for enterprises. I know it used to be the standard, right, where you had your corporate cell phone, your corporate device. Um, and then I think a lot of companies have switched away from that model, where they're in a more of a hybrid IoT environment now. And so when you get into the legality or ethics even of putting your protection mechanisms on a personal device, that's kind of a gray area. It's going to open up a lot of new things. But then further than that too, if our initial point of ingress for a lot of these compromises is now coming through a personal device to reach that business network, right? Then it's going to be a legally tricky area too, for business owners to be able to properly forensicate that device, identify the attack happened, and so on. So I think those are challenges to come.
Yeah, I think we're seeing a lot of that. Even with computers, there's a lot of bring your own device,
Mm-hmm.
small companies, startups and stuff. And then they maybe are successful and they take off a little bit and they have to scale and grow, and they never really established a proper infrastructure to begin with. So then they
Mm-hmm.
continue kind of scaling it with something that was really never meant to scale. And so, I mean, I know I've seen a decent amount of that, and people asking those questions like, how do we secure this? How do we even determine if it is secure? How do we pen test it? How do we scan it? How do we do any of this stuff? And it's like, well, you kind of don't, because you just
Right.
had everyone bring their own devices, right? I mean, you think about that, a lot of people who are going to be on this call are not in that situation, right? A lot of people listening in, they're going to be in a situation where they do have corporate devices and stuff for a lot of things, but it's, imagine what it would be like if they weren't. And think about, that's pretty much how everybody's treating phones these days anyway, so, or other
Yep.
types of devices.
Yep. It's going to be a challenging road ahead. It's always a challenging road though, right? Just new challenges, different day, different week. So, all right, let's move on. Let's talk about another story that's hit recently. EvilProxy. I'm not sure if you guys have heard about this, but it's essentially phishing as a service campaign. I think there was a previous campaign, some of this known as Frappo. But essentially, yeah, you can go on the dark web right now, find EvilProxy. You pay them for a subscription. It's like 10 days, 20 days, or 31 days, roughly like $400 to $600 a month, from what I've read. There's a premium on some of the services, and they have a phishing service stood up, ready to roll, with templates built for iCloud, Facebook, GoDaddy, Google, GitHub, Microsoft, NPM, PyPy, a whole bunch of people, right? And so they're essentially using proxy and session cookie harvesting to be able to bypass MFA. So there's a kind of a theme today. We're going to talk about another way to bypass MFA. So essentially, you pay the attackers, have the phishing infrastructure, they stand up the template that you want to hit. You phish your target. The target goes to their proxy server, intercepts all communications, passes the communications on to the legitimate service on the back end. So they're able to harvest those creds. As they put in the creds, the MFA request goes through the proxy as well, which authenticates the session. And then the attacker, sitting in the middle on the proxy server, now has a valid session cookie that they can reuse to maintain access to that account. I think at the end of the chain, the user is just redirected to another website. And so I think if they're doing this right, we haven't seen this yet, but they're likely redirecting to the service they were trying to connect to. And I think Eric, you had talked about this, right? If they already have that session cookie that's valid, when they're redirected, then they're logged in and they don't even know they were phished. They just thought they put in their creds and went right into the valid service. If they didn't have the session cookie, then they have to put the creds in again, and they may just think, that's weird. Why do I have to put my creds in a second time? I think people are still going to do it and go in, and it's a lot of probably invisibility there for the user to be able to identify they were even phished.
Yeah, I mean, and this has been one of those things from the beginning of two-factor kind of coming into play. It's like, well, I mean, if we can phish, if we can have someone that, get phished and log in, can we have them just also put in their two-factor? And it's like, yeah, well, it's going to change. I won't be able to log back into that account, but I mean, we can just grab the cookies and, or, API keys or whatever gets pulled back in to make that session established, and then be able to kind of live on that until it gets forced out, which these days with, GWTs and different types of authentication and being able to stay, I mean, every account you log into these days is like, you want to stay logged in for the next 30 days? You want to remember me? This computer trusted? It's like, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Please let me stay accessing for the next 30 days, so it's definitely a real possibility. And in some situations, I don't know, I couldn't tell you on every single service that exists out there, or any of the ones that specifically EvilProxy are targeting, not referring to this when I say this, but in some situations, some of the services and stuff out there, there's no way sometimes to even invalidate sessions, right? Once a session's been grabbed, someone could change their password and you'd still have access.
Right.
Some situation, I mean, some places I know that some services that exist out there have options to say log out every login session, not just change my password, but log everything out and force relogins everywhere and validate all session tokens that exist. But a lot of things don't do that. So when you're looking at things like this, sometimes just changing your password alone won't even be enough. Sometimes.
Oh yeah. I think Pink, you could probably shed some light on that with our investigations. I mean, we see this often.
Yeah. It's and this one thing I was going to say too is I was kind of looking into this one because this one, at least the news about it's pretty recent. But I know over the last few months we've had a few cases where MFA got bypassed and we weren't entirely sure how. Like, it was just not a good way to track it down and see what was wrong. Right, just click a valid login. I'm kind of wondering now if maybe some related to this and that type of thing. Just no one knew about it yet. But yeah, I mean, that's a huge thing in our investigations is oftentimes we'll have someone come to us with like an email breach, 365 or something like that. And like, yeah, we reset the password and things like that, and we're good. And then we find out that, no, you're not, because you didn't purge all the active tokens and that kind of thing. And so there's still active authentication out there. And it's become a really regular part of our investigations. Like, hey, reset these now. We're probably going to have to reset them again toward the end of this compromise in case something happens while the attackers are still in there and that kind of thing. But yeah, it's a huge issue, and like Eric said too, there's just a lot of places where you just can't do that. Where there's just no option to do it, so it is pretty dangerous. And it's an interesting attack method. I thought it's these types of attacks aren't exactly new, but like a service for it, right? Just a pay at a pretty cheap given what you're getting there. That's I mean, I think the 7-day or something like that was only like $125, I think. I mean, that's dirt cheap, you do a lot of damage to that. So kind of a neat method. But yeah, like everything else, I expect we're going to see more of this. We're probably going to have more breaches where we're looking into them, and MFA got bypassed, and we're trying to figure out how. So hopefully there's some good detection methods that come out of the news and that type of thing, and we can figure some stuff out to help folks out with that.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple things, like the implications now that we have phishing as a service and it's cheap, then we can fully expect from a defender perspective that the frequency of this type of attack is going to increase. That's going to become more of the norm as we move forward, I believe. And I think too, yeah, it's kind of reinvestigating, those forensication methods again, like an understanding like what retaining your or having access to all your clients and their web history is important. Run those timelines, try to understand when did that authentication occur, be able to look in that timeline and see what that user was doing. But then we also run the risk again, if they're on a personal device and that personal device has access to the enterprise network, then we're not going to have visibility into that. And that's a continuing challenge. The other thing I thought was interesting is that they did have templates built for NPM, PyPy, and GitHub. Were called out specifically, and I know we've been talking a lot about those repositories and managing code repositories and how the downstream effects of that are pretty scary and real. But again, this kind of tells me about the thought process or methodology of our attackers right now. We're seeing them shift more to let's attack the code repositories. And I think that's going to stay too. I don't think that's going anywhere.
Yeah, I mean, from a forensic standpoint, I kind of wish they would just sit still for a little while. It feels like every time we get a good forensication method, it's like, oh yeah, no, there's this whole new thing. And but I mean, it's part of it, but it's just like, yeah, we get a good process down, and then that's totally useless.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Eric, from Red Team perspective here too. Yeah, I don't know, as far as like your methodology, I'm sure this is going to impact how we look at things from Red Team perspective too.
I mean, yeah, I think we, have been looking at things from this perspective to some extent. It's difficult with, I mean, like the way we do phishing and stuff like that, the way a lot of people will do phishing, it's a certain amount of tooling is a little bit more difficult to use as a security firm versus an attacker. Attackers can just do whatever the heck they want. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, two-factor has always been one of those things that definitely becomes a hassle, but it's not, I mean, everybody knows it's not indefeatable or anything like that. You can definitely come after it. I mean, a lot of times we get wins with just people getting push notifications and accepting them, which is always concerning. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so I always kind of say it's a tough one too, because you saw so much guidance out there, NIST especially, and other places and stuff saying SMS is bad, use some kind of push thing. But then it's like, but if people get used to accepting a push, that's worse, right? And so, and people, they're creatures of repetition, and sometimes they're just thinking, I don't want to mess something up. So yeah, sure. I do like that I've seen some kind of push notifications and stuff these days. I can't, or is it, I think it's Google now is using one that when it sends you the push, it puts a number up on your screen and tells you to click the number on your phone. So you can't just say yes to it. You have to actually give it input from what you're seeing on your screen. Things like that will be really big, I think, if you're going to, for kind of stopping certain types of things. But yeah, I mean, when it comes down to it, these types of things, just kind of, you always try to get creative and try to work ways around things. And the reality is whether it's the person doing the interaction with the service or your backend server that's interacting with the client and then interacting with the server, there's ways to get kind of tunnel things through and take advantage of them. And we've already done certain levels of authenticating and capturing tokens and reusing tokens for a while instead of actually using the creds themselves. So
yeah, I wonder too if this will follow a similar trend we've saw in previous attacks over the last couple of years. Like if you think about, let's go back to SolarWinds, and there was a lot of compromised networks that they weren't actually acted upon until way later. The same for proxy logon, right? There's a lot of compromised Exchange servers people were unaware of, and then the attacks weren't executed for a long time later. I think the same for Log4j. We still haven't seen the full outcome of that. That's going to be in the future. But right now, since attackers know there are gaps in MFA technology, it could be an exercise of saying, let's get access to as many devices and many accounts as we can, set up as that authorized device, and just hibernate while we continue to accrue more and more and more. Because we know, I think that we're aware, and people who are listening here are going to be aware. Hopefully they'll pay closer attention to, like, let's really verify those devices that are attached to our enterprise, make sure they should be there. There's just as many people that aren't going to do that. And so they run this campaign for a very long time. And then even when those MFA technologies may evolve, if they're still not, getting rid of these approved devices, and I don't know what the time limits, if that's customizable, so they can have a harvested, treasure trove of access that could be used later to further the attack. Yeah, I see that in the chat too. Seems like Microsoft is doing what you were talking about, Eric. And then Yeah, I guess Okta. I'm assuming the Okta feature is a feature you have to enable just based on the Twilio stuff. I'm not sure, Anthony, if you know more about that, but would be interested to hear.
Well, and I want to be clear too that I think that's a good step toward people not being able to just hit yes and not knowing what the heck they're hitting yes to. But the reality is that there might still very well good ways to just pass that through to a user and do the type of attack that EvilProxy is doing.
Yeah,
You know what
for
I mean?
sure.
If the server's sending that to me and I send it to you, and then you say which one, and then it goes through, you know what I mean? And you press the thing.
Yep.
All I need to do is be proxying that interaction and then steal the cookie that comes out of it or the session ID that comes out of it, right? So it doesn't solve some of those issues, but it at least solves the I have a push notification and should I push it? Sure. You know.
Yeah. Cool. So again, MFA is not a silver bullet. Sorry, gang.
Sorry.
Not an excuse to not turn it on, though.
Yeah, turn it on though, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, we'll hit on one more thing real quick, and then we'll get out of here and start our weekends up. TeslaGun. So there was a toolkit. Essentially, it's a console control panel used by the APT known as EvilCorp. I think they've got a few names. TA505 is how they're tracked. They are a financially motivated group that's also sanctioned. So if you are the victim of one of the EvilCorp attacks, you're not going to be able to negotiate a ransom payment with them. But ProDraft was able to get their hands essentially on TeslaGun, which is the CNC console that EvilCorp is using for their backdoor, which is known as Serve Helper. And in doing so too, they were able to get some analysis on like who the targets were, how many folks were compromised, where those the compromises reside, and so on. Of interest, they've hit 8,160 targets since July of 2020. 3,667 of those are domestic, and they seem to really like to focus on online banking, retail users, crypto wallets, and e-commerce accounts as well. So I seen also the U.S. Department of Health put out a warning of significant threats posed to the healthcare sector via the exfil attacks and ransomware from TA505 as well. Yeah, so that's pretty interesting. Did you guys get a chance to look at the TeslaGun?
Looked through it a little bit. I didn't get to go as deep as we went on some of the other ones, but it's just interesting. We just, Evil Corporate, they just won't go away. I mean, not that they ever would, but just all the name changes and everything like that. It's pretty neat, though, to get at least a little bit of a window into kind of that world and what they were doing. I mean, I think a lot of it is stuff that we already suspected, right? They talk about them profiling victims and that kind of thing. We definitely knew that happened. And, because we've seen tailored ransom amounts and things like that. People get their hands on cyber insurance documents and that kind of thing. Like, hey, your cyber insurance will pay out $1 million. So how about a $1 million ransom? Things like that. So, but kind of neat to get to see that, see behind the scenes a little bit on that.
Yeah, this was not one I was able to read into too much, but I mean, I kind of agree with all of that. It's always good to, I guess, get information on the kind of how these things are working out, and to verify some of the stuff. I guess we already kind of know, but
yeah. I think the good thing is it gives us more information to be able to defend. Again, we know that EvilCorp has a ton of tools, and so this will hopefully give more insight into other custom tooling they may have created eventually. I hope we get there, but then also too, just seeing a lot of their techniques and being able to document those techniques and share those with defenders so we can get better at stopping EvilCorp.
Yeah, I mean, any time you get a chance to kind of reverse engineer something that you found or work through the process backwards and kind of see how things are going down, who it's compromised, what they're targeting, how they're targeting them, how they're adjusting to certain things like that. I mean, in situations where you guys have been doing incident response, and we're able to do things like that, it's always highly beneficial. I mean, a lot of times we end up being able to help a lot of people we didn't even plan on helping in the first place. You know what I mean? So
yeah, absolutely. I did take one thing away from that article too that I thought was kind of interesting to me anyway, is that it noted that their internal structure was, and I quote, surprisingly disorganized. That actually surprised me a little. They've been around forever. They've been doing a lot of things. They've been pretty rowdy on attacks and stuff like that. I actually kind of figured they were a pretty well-oiled machine. But it sounds like maybe not. So that's it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, especially we see a lot of the other like ransom as a service right now are out there.
Right.
Kind of got their stuff together, got a help desk, and you get support if your tools don't work. And
Yeah.
Evil Corp is such a well-known APT that you kind of imagine they got their stuff together.
Well, I mean, I look at it from the perspective too. I mean, they probably got a lot of, balls in the air, type of thing. It's what
True.
the reality is.
8,160 balls in the air.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know
that's a good
how
point.
I don't know how you organize that in the back end. I mean, as a
Uh-huh.
security firm who does however many pen tests every single month and trying to just juggle our infrastructure, I mean, the reality is it would have to be a hot mess in the back end to even do that. You'd
Mhm.
have to have so much data overlapping on top of each other, so many, servers that are handling multiple clients at one time. I bet there's a lot of it has to be a mess. There's no
Yeah.
way, there's no infrastructure that even exists for doing C2 and compromised in environments for that many different targets without completely being this pile of spaghetti,
Yeah.
And if someone creates it, sell it to me as a pen testing tool, please.
I mean, maybe you should check out TeslaGun. Maybe they're just not organized.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about they just start going for good? You could make a lot of good legal money just selling your tools,
Yeah. If you're listening to Evil Corp, just sell TeslaGun. Give it a spin, bro.
Just repackage it, call it something, something neat and clean sounding, and just just resell it on the side. Good to go.
Very safe command and control.
Number one best, very safe.
Yeah, number one best.
No one would trust it, but do it anyway.
Tesla fun.
Tesla fun.
I like
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Tesla fun.
All right, cool. I think that's about all we got today. Anything else from you, Eric or Pink Man?
No. I love you all. I love everybody.
Yeah.
I just realized I do this. I call you Pinky, like, I don't know, 5 different things, like Pinky, Pink Man, Pinkerton, the Pinkster, whatever. And I forget that everybody else doesn't realize that, to me, Pinky translates into whatever's fun and the way it sounds at that moment, what mood I'm in and your mood's in. But I was talking to Evan a couple weeks ago and I said something about the Pink Man. And he was like, wait, who's that? Do we have another Pink? And I'm like, no, it's Pinky. He's like, but he's the Pink Man too. I'm like, he's whatever goes. You feel like you just use Pink at the beginning. You just add on to it.
Hey, you're good to go, man. It's good to go. I actually realized I didn't have the Pinky on the Zoom today too. So if anybody knew, they might not actually pick up on that. It's kind of funny.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Of the Pinkinator. That's too good. Not the
I mean, I'll happily adopt that one.
Yeah.
I want fun versions of my name now. Like, where's the love? You know what I mean?
I know we got to come up with something.
It's just like Eric or E-Rock. That's
E-Rock,
it. You know what I mean? And barely anyone ever calls me E-Rock, and you shouldn't, because I don't like it. Which means now everyone will. So
yeah, you should have said that out loud.
E-hands.
Yeah.
All right. That's the homework for all our listeners. Come up with some dope Mbop, Eric. Some dope names. For
that's
Eric.
just rude.
Yeah,
I got that in high school so much. That's just traumatizing me. PTSD.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend. Have a safe weekend, and we'll talk to everyone soon. See ya.
Bye, everybody.